Na kiroho pia ni kijana, si ndio? I think there was someone behind you, Shefa. Yeah, go ahead.
So my name is Wanjiru Nguhe. I work at Fumbua, which is a mis and disinformation, program. We're against mis and disinformation. And my comment is about the quality of propaganda that we're seeing the government, using against the citizens. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to commend every single Kenyan who has come across mis and disinformation and debunked it, or fact-check it, or done a scientific analysis of why it is wrong. We really, really commend you. Thank you so much. It means that we, the people, are also fact-checkers, and we're also against being carried pumpkin. So the thing I really want to say about the propaganda that we're seeing, of course, propaganda is it says something about the people who have sponsored it, or the people who are imagining, or the people who are curating it. And it tells us exactly what they think about the Kenyan population. The kind of Cobra Squad things we are seeing, and I say Cobra Squad because it's the,
that might hurt some people who are jobless right now. Nasema tu, I'm just saying.
I take it. But the kind of propaganda we are seeing, it tells us a lot about the perception that these people have of the people of Kenya.
Yeah.
They have a really terrible perception of they think of us as unthinking, unseeing, unfeeling, unresponsive citizenry. And the one thing I'd like to say, and I don't even think I should say this, is that if you're going to lie to people, first of all, understand who you're lying to and respect us a little bit. Kenya yastahili heshima. And so we want to be respected. Even in the propaganda, please just work hard. Don't give us vampire tales. And also another thing is that your response to the death of people cannot be propaganda. Your response to more than 40, 50 bodies found in the river cannot be propaganda. Let's be a bit serious. Let's honestly be a bit serious. It's all jokes and games, but people have actually died, and it cannot be propaganda. We are in an actual crisis. It cannot be about propaganda. And worse, it cannot be about cheap, unthought, half-baked propaganda. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ifikie the people who are co-creating this thing.
Yeah.
Ifikie wale watu wamejifunga kwa cyber cafe.
Before the next comment, there's really a question of propaganda and clearing the air. That's reminded me of Wanjiru, and I want to just go quickly to you, Senator Omtata. There right now is quite a bit of commentary around the conflict of interest bill, and people want to know: did you assent to it? Are you in support of it? If so, why? If not, why not?
Yeah, that's an interesting. I've seen some. Is it a tweet or whatever? I saw it by Oguda.
By Gabriel Oguda, yes.
Having cut some signature part of a bill. Yeah? I think it's the total lack of knowledge of how a bill is processed. What happened in Parliament? We got this bill from the National Assembly. I sit in the Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights Committee. So the bill came from the National Assembly. It was committed to my committee. We put out an advert for public participation. And we got quite a number of institutions and people responding. And we distilled the responses. And we came up with amendments to the bill, most of which, and I think all of which were to strengthen the bill. Then we made our report as a committee, upon which some of us signed. Some were not around, some were online, so they just voted by endorsing it online. All of us signed for it. It was taken to Parliament for a second reading. Then, during the second reading, where the bill is read through and through, members of Parliament also have an opportunity to comment on the bill. And so at that point, a motion for amendment was moved by Olekina, bringing in a complete new raft of amendments, which were not the amendments I had signed on. So that's a very important distinction. I signed on a report of a committee carrying recommendations from the Kenya law reform, all these parties. And I think I'm going to post that report online so that people can distinguish. Then, on the floor of Parliament, when we were at the Committee of the Whole House, made suggestions to amend. Unfortunately, on that day, I was out in Busia. I think I was attending, I've sued my governor for refusing me access to information. So I was in court in Busia, I think, or somewhere. So I was not in parliament on the effective day when our report was tabled and then amendments to the bill were proposed. So Senator Lekina proposed amendments which were carried alongside what we had amended. So what has vexed people are these amendments that came from private members, some of which are not bad in the extent that there was mischief also being played through the conflict of interest bill, whereby other laws were being amended through this particular law. And I've personally gone to court. I went to court in 2018, and I stopped a similar attempt to amend the EMCA, the Environmental Management Act, Environmental Management, Conservation Act, through the Torture Act. What was being debated was the Torture Act, but then they were amending the Environment Act. It was being sneaked in. So the argument some of the MPs who proposed the amendments were that these particular amendments, one, some were already in other laws. Two, they need to come as standalone bill so that when interrogating the amendment, the parent law is also looked at. And that's the logic of what I've been told what happened on that day. And that's what informed the various amendments, whereby some proposals were rejected to that extent. But in terms of my signature, which I've seen a good circulating, he really does not understand that a report of a committee, which members sign on, that the report of that committee that we signed on did not contain the contentious amendments that people are complaining about. Mm-hmm. In fact, our amendments were largely by institutions of governments like Human Rights Commission and all those kind of things, clarifying this and that and the other. But the amendments Lekina brought in, which I've asked him, and he told him we were supposed to achieve two things. One, there was duplication, and two, the use of the Torture Act as an omnibus amendment, and I named the Torture Amendment Act as an omnibus amendment act to amend other laws, instead of coming up with a miscellaneous amendment act that would carry all these laws, so that all the parent laws could be subjected to whatever you call it, could be subjected to public participation and proper consideration.
Okay, I have
I was not in parliament when the particular amendments were made. The document of Oguda is circulating is not correct, because that was a signature to a report. If you want to know how people voted on the bill, then you need to get the Hansard of the day. Mm-hmm. And you'll clearly see that I was not in parliament, and you'll see people who voted.
Okay, I have a yes or no question. Does the current bill with its amendments allow for members of parliament, members of government to do business with government?
I think the issue was that what I've seen the bill is not as simplistic as that. There was an amendment to relationship. Like, if I happen to be a friend and you work in government, irrespective of the department, would that be a conflict of interest if I get into business in government? Mm-hmm. Those are some of the questions that were coming in. So there were matters of due process. And the good thing is that the bill has not been finalized, because when the Senate introduces amendments to a bill that has come from the National Assembly, or the National Assembly introduces amendments to a bill from the Senate, it goes to a mediation committee. So we are going to appoint 9 people from the Senate, and the National Assembly will appoint 9 people from the Senate. Okay. And they will sit down again and relook at these various provisions. Okay. But what I've told you about Ladema's amendments that have brought all this storm is that I asked him what was it that was debated. Well, I also began reading it on social media, and I asked him what is it that was brought on the floor of the House that has brought this kind of storm. And what I've given was this explanation that he wanted to achieve two things. One, to tidy up the process of lawmaking by rejecting amendments through the back door. And two, he wanted also to avoid the duplication, whereby a provision in another law is again found in another law and it brings conflict.
Okay.
So that's why he proposed the amendment to remove whatever was removed with a rider that they should bring a special bill that will carry all these laws that want to be amended in the area of corruption to achieve that goal. So
Okay.
that's what it, but I'm thinking I want to go and post the bill because I've not seen anybody circulating the bill. I've seen debate on the bill.
Yeah.
I've not seen anybody circulating the bill. Now that Mr. Oguda has circulated my signature, I'm constrained to get the entire report put out on social media, and I hope people will read and see what was in that social report. And I also want to circulate the report of the committee of the Senate, because what happens is that when you're making legislation, once these proposals come, we have got experts, lawyers, economists, or whatever, who go and look at the bill and then make a report based on also what we have received from the public. And then they go through them, sift them and see, and then run them against the Constitution. In fact, one of the main things that the people had a problem with what came from the National Assembly was that a lot of what we changed at the committee was conflict with the Constitution, which would basically mean that it would go to court and it would be thrown out.
Okay.
May have been popular, but it was in conflict with the Constitution, like a fair hearing. There are things you cannot interfere with, and you cannot deny somebody a fair hearing on the basis of what you are suspecting the person to have done. So there was that element that went through the committee. But I think the best thing is to get people to read through. I'm even seeing that even the anger with the finance bill, for somebody like me, at the first time I fought the finance bill was 2018. We used to have what they called the Provisional Collection of Taxes Act, whereby the finance bill became law the day the minister read it. Mm-hmm. I'm the one who went to court and said, you cannot tax people without representation. And in my petition number 285 of 2018, I got orders quashing that law that allowed the finance bill to become automatic law, and also quashing the order that had effected that. And for those who are old enough, you remember there was a time when around the budget time, things could disappear from the shops. Mm. Then, after the budget is read, they would come back with the new prices. It's because the finance bill used to be implemented automatically. So the executive would tax you without your voice. I went to court in 2018, I fought the system, and I won. And I destroyed that law, so the finance bill began being debated. I moved on and began fighting. Even last year, it was a one-man fight against the finance bill. One of the things I've been demanding is that you look at theft in terms of expenditure. The real theft happens on the revenue side. Mm. The law is very clear. The budget should give us estimates of revenue and estimates of expenditure. When you say you are raising the price on petroleum, the VAT on petroleum, from 8% to 16%, what is the anticipated revenue? And can that be put in law? And is that enough to finance the budget? So that we are in a situation whereby the government is raising money we don't know. Even domestic debts. We don't have a single domestic debt that has been acquired from 2010 that is valid, because it says it must be in the budget. You must propose your expenditure in the budget. Then Parliament has to approve what you want to do, so that what you then go to take on the money from the people is something that is tangible. Yeah. So these are the things that now, if you look at now, even the victory that people are celebrating, the Appropriation Act was enacted into law. The question we should be asking ourselves, with the rejection of the mechanisms for financing that budget, can the Appropriations Act still be law? Or do we need to go back and do what is really the proper thing, begin the budget cycle afresh? Okay. And finally, this year I also went to court in May. Just that the judges, I think, were a bit disturbed. I went to court in May. And I asked a very critical question. Can you pass the Finance Act before you pass the Appropriation Act, the budget? Mm. What are you financing? It's the budget. So where is the budget you want to finance? What was happening was very simple. President Ruto was now reaching a point whereby he was saying he does not need a budget. He does not need parliament to run this country. He was going to collect money, put in his pocket, and do what he wants with it. So that challenge was there. So we need to look critically at our budgeting cycle and ensure that the scamming that is causing poverty in this country, whereby there's absolute theft on the side of revenues, the Gen Zs should not get to that point of understanding that the Finance Act is nothing but a mechanism of raising money to finance a budget. The problem is in the budget. What are we budgeting for? Why can't we balance our budget? What are we budgeting for? Why can't we balance our budget? When we get there, then right now what I see, when I look at people in the street, when I was hearing people shouting, it's like somebody looking through the keyhole and getting mad at what they see. I want that person to go to the balcony and see the mess. And then get properly mad and say, after being mad, we are going to proceed in this kind of sequencing.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's how I personally look at it.
Thank you. Mark.
Sorry, I was looking, I was a bit distracted. There was a bouquet of flowers, and I wanted to hand over to Mr. Okiya Omtata. You know how they say give a man flowers while they're alive? Just to appreciate. No. Senator, you have to be appreciated for what you've done. But
I want to say something. When I had an accident, and people saw the kind of cars I drive small cars because of my pocket. When I had somebody talking of Subaru, see, I've got a Subaru. So when you say don't think it's the cops. So when I had that accident, I was condemned for driving a small car, yet I'm a senator. Not a single tweet even from the Gen Zs praised me for being sensible enough to live within my means. Everybody said, how can a senator be driving a Nissan whatever? Small Nissan car. They don't even see that even if I was driving the latest state-of-the-art vehicle, and that trailer, which was coming full of petrol, had lost control, would smash me to chapatis. Just that by the grace of God, it missed me and it collapsed, it crashed. So I also wonder that even those people who are complaining, when given an opportunity, would they be younger hyenas which can eat more than the old hyenas?
I mean, these
are the real questions you have to check.
Look, it's a great question, and perhaps a question that we will ask over the course of this discourse between ourselves and government. It's a good one.
But
it's a good one.
People began fundraising for me, and I've not seen that many items. They were going to buy me a car. So I don't know how much they fundraise, and I would really be willing to receive that car.
Thank you, Omtata. Okay, Mark, do we have any more comments from the audience?
Actually, yes. The flowers that I was going to give were actually Schaefer's.
Yes.
She would have allowed me, but Schaefer, I want us to, as we kind of wind up, because we're getting close to 9 o'clock. And first of all, let's appreciate Senator Okiya Omtata for what he's done over the years. And please, wale ambao walianza fundraiser, mfikishieni funds tafadhali, Senator, aende vizuri. But Schaefer, as a governance expert, policy, what's your irreducible minimum for not just this government, moving forward for this country?
Wow. I'm just thinking. I have so many. I think the first one and the first one ideally for me for this country is to remember who we are, without a doubt, because it is us forgetting and it is us assuming that we are not the people we think we are that got us to many negotiations with the political elite, and them assuming that they were better than us, and them assuming that they knew how to get away with murder, literally, things, plunder, theft, corruption, all of that. So that's my first irreducible minimum to the people of this country. Never forget who you are and what you are to this country. Like you saw the people in the streets for the first time in a magnitude that my heart literally was stopping, because you are beautiful in the chaos. And I don't think we sit and just kind of take that in and feel like we are incredible, because we are, right? So let us not forget who we are. And we are exactly the people who birthed this constitution, and we are the people who will make sure that every article and every line of that constitution is implemented, right? So that's one for the people of this country. For the leadership of this country, my first one is stop imagining you're smarter than us as an irreducible minimum. Like, just stop imagining that. We are the people who come, we know the law, we know international law, we will speak English, we'll speak multiple languages. We saw civic rise, everybody coming on board and saying, listen, we are going to translate this finance bill so everybody who doesn't understand English, we can take this to our people, right? So the first thing is, please don't think you are smarter than us. You're not, right? The other irreducible minimum is I completely refuse to accept willful ignorance, which we have seen in this government as a strategy, as a tactic, as a policy, mechanism, as an advocacy, as a comms. And what I mean by willful ignorance is this whole thing where government behaves like they don't know what's happening. Right? They only know what's happening when it comes to money. They only know what's happening when it comes to them losing their power, them being deplatformed, them losing their credibility. Then they know what's going on. But when Kenyans say, hey, KNH doesn't have enough doctors, KNH doesn't have running water, doctors are in the streets, they really don't know what's happening. When we are saying there are bodies lying now in morgues who have no names but are Kenyans first, right? Before we know who they are, they now don't know what's happening. They're now investigating. And we've seen this before, right? Where if somebody who has money and a title and class and, sometimes even if you're beautiful, you are taken care of, right? And people will come and find ways to make things work for you. What about the rest of us, So there's that. There's the level of willful ignorance that is used in this country as a way, as a mechanism of governance that is completely unacceptable. And we are not taking that anymore. And it goes into the whole thing of how they plunder. It goes into the whole thing of when they ask questions, now they really don't have the answers. Now it's, the police is now independent. When you ask who signed this, then now we don't really know, because, you have to talk to your MPs. Your MPs will be there saying, we serve our people. But then also the state, I'm like, stop that bullshit, because nobody's buying it anymore, The third irreducible minimum is nobody else should die in this country if we claim to have a leadership or a governance system that is abiding by the 2010 Constitution of this republic. It is impossible to imagine that there was even a dialogue to start today, I guess, because the people who should have been in that room dialoguing are in graves, right? They're the bodies that are cold. They're the bodies that are still missing. They're the people we can't account for. Those are the people who should be in that room dialoguing. So I'm not sure what people like us, right, are supposed to say when the demands are very clear, and the demands have always been clear. Kenyans want a country where they are Kenyans, and because you're a Kenyan, it's enough. You don't have to be a Kenyan Kikuyu, a Kenyan Luo, a Kenyan Kalenjin, a Kenyan Kamba. You just have to be a Kenyan for the fucking systems to work. How hard is that to understand, right? So those are my irreducible minimums. The other thing is, please, and I want to tell this to the generation that came and joined us in the struggle, as somebody who's proud, is that profanity is the language of the free. Profanity is the language of the free. And I mean this to say, everybody else who has been cussing a leader on a platform elsewhere, continue. I tell you this because whenever we ask for respectability politics, whenever we are asking for decorum, for people to behave well, for people to understand the elders are in the room, that is when the autocracy begins. So profanity is the language of the free. So speak freely, call them out, call them what they are, because they are thieves, they are murderers, they are rapists, they are plunderers, they are illegal in the offices that they hold.
Thank you. On that profane note, I'd like to bring you in, Darius. I mean, you sat and listened silently for most of this conversation. But, by way of final thoughts, what to you, as a person who's looked at the history of this country from even before it was called Kenya, what to you is a thing that you desire most about what should come next?
Just getting started, let me read for you something here. Just an excerpt of a paragraph. It says, on the brink of great and widespread violence, people begin to turn back. There is a shared recognition that something must change, but the violence is not the way forward. Religious leaders take the lead. They help to force the government to convene a negotiating forum where all stakeholders are represented. A neutral, respected outsider is asked to help. He or she chairs the forum, helping everyone to reach a resolution that pacifies all the parties. Does that sound familiar?
Very familiar. It sounds like conflicts that I used to have at home. And anyway, I'm joking. No, obviously it sounds familiar, and not to be trite or to be, insincere to this moment. This is something that we've been through before as a country.
Yeah. Surprisingly, this was a document written about Kenya in 1999. Yeah. So we've been here before with these, basically these political players. What has happened is that, over the last 60, 70 years, this country has been governed by what you call elite convergence. Elite convergence is where, when their interests are threatened, they coalesce around each other. They gather, they hunt in packs. What I like about this moment is that elite convergence has collapsed. They've tried it, everything written here, which was actually written in 1999. It's an old rule book that has refused to work, which means we're dealing with a new country. We are dealing with a whole new dispensation. We are dealing with a new Kenya, where in real time we are seeing a whole new scenarios, a whole new logics in terms of education, in terms of, our public life, our civic participation, in terms of what we demand from the country. So this is beyond who sits on the Esprit. There's a whole new country that started emerging in 2007, where the old logics of how that, they've handled this system has worked. But there's something, and I've mentioned it before, it's called the problem with lagging indicators, where a new reality comes into place, but the old system still has language, it has institutions, it has, resources. But then what you are seeing is the end of that reality. And I don't know what the new reality looks like. I don't believe there are particular solutions, but there are particular scenarios that will emerge in the coming decades. And for me, it's an amazing opportunity to see moments and, circumstance and reality force these elites to begin to make concessions and acquisitions that in previous times came with a far higher cost. Not that we haven't paid a cost now, and it still has a significant, we've lost 40 lives. About 600 people were arrested. We paid, quite a huge price for this. But watching the state and how it was formed 130 years ago begin to self-conclude, and watch these new emerging models of seeing and viewing ourselves and the civic public and the state, for me, is amazing. But particularly for the public finance aspects, there is going to be need for that public debt audit. Because given the kind of concessions the president has made, there's significant debt management that you're going to have to do, which of course affects households, people, people's jobs, people's incomes, people's budgets. And so if not for anything, then the mechanisms and structures of setting up, all the appropriations in aid and the finance bill and the budgets around it, we'll have to see to this and realize that the old order is gone.
Darius, can Kenya, in very simple terms, say, hey, to the IMF, to China, to all of the people that we owe, tunafanya stock taking, just wait, hold on with all of the repayments until we are done, because that's, I think, what the fear is. As we are looking at our debt, they're still in our pockets. So can that happen?
Definitely, and as Honorable Okiya has mentioned, we need to start balancing our budgets again. We need to get our house in order. You cannot say you want to borrow 980 billion for this financial year. What's that money for? Where is that money going? We're talking about losing 63 billion shillings to Aror and Kimorer. TVET's budget this year is 30.7 billion. That's half. You can literally fund twice as many TVETs. I mean, we are joking. And in many ways, this is an opportunity to face the fact that we need to balance our budgets, we need to get our house in order, we need to, get the resources back on the streets and get, including the system, not just the national government, but the particular parastatals and the devolved units to be held accountable and to clean up their books.
Thank you. Thank you,
Darius. I'd like to bring something. Yeah, please. Appreciate Darius. He sounds like he'll be advising the future government of this country, as he already is. You've quoted something from 1999 about this country, or someone who sits in the same position in terms of expertise and calls himself an economist, David Ndii. He quoted something as well and said, majority of youth have no problem amassing wealth through evading tax evasion and corruption as long as they do not get prosecuted, a new report has revealed. Now, quoting about this report, he says, this survey was conducted 8 years ago. My bet is nothing has changed. Gen Z may claim to be tribalist, but on matters corruption, our political class is a reflection of society, Gen Z included. Engendering a culture of accountability will take more than venting thoughtless anger. From economist to economist, what would you say?
Well, he quoted a Gen Z report from 8 years ago. I did one 3 months ago on that. And it challenges everything he said about it.
Hold on, let me just give him a mic again. I want him to be on record on that. That one was off, please. It must be heard. So yes, on that article he quotes about Gen Z.
Yeah, I mean, he did that. He quoted a report from 8 years ago. I myself did one 3 months ago on the same issue, and the results are completely different. So he needs to update his data.
Do you see what I said about they are not smarter than us?
He's the same man who called us. He's the same man who said online activism is just wanking. So how can we believe anything that he says? I mean, we have seen what online activism has done.
Can I play devil's advocate for a moment here and just be completely conspiratorial and ask, what if, and again, I'm just playing, let's play imagine here. Yeah? All right. What if David Ndii was actually the agent provocateur that was sent from amongst the masses into government to annoy people to get to this point?
Was that the best?
The profanity is overwhelming me on this side with this. Okay. He's done it, huh? Okay. Anyway, now that's completely aside. But I mean, Darius, we'd love to look at your report. The comments here are really stellar when it comes to what we need to do in terms of balancing our budgets.
Let me break protocol, John.
Okay.
There's a young man there who looks like a Gen Z. He had raised his hand a few minutes ago.
Yes.
Sir.
And then after him, there's someone here who wants to comment here.
Sitaki kusalimiwa kesho kwa sababu sikukupea mic. You could say your name, whether you are Gen Z or you just have a baby face, and go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Bon Sevic. I'm 22 years old. So one thing that I've been sitting here and listening to you, and when I'd sat down here, I'd feel like heat coming from my toes to my head. Because one time, it was 3 months ago, I was admitted at Kenyatta Hospital for sickle cell disease. And I remember after I was discharged, I was to go back for an appointment to take other medication which had ended by that time. And I remember when I go to the hospital and I gave the NHIF cover, I was told that this cover can't work for people unless you're working in the civil servant. And I was asked if my mom or my dad works for the civil servant. So that's one thing that annoyed me. And again, on June 19th was World Sickle Cell Day. And I was hoping that maybe the government or the Ministry of Health will do something like to create awareness for sickle cell disease or conduct tests to find out people living with sickle cell disease and get them tested. But none of this happened. So I was asking myself then, what's the work of the Ministry of Health? Yeah, that's all.
Thank you for that question.
There's a comment here. Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Nepurko. I've been saving my voice for the last 4 days, so if it disappears, please bear with me. For me, the thing about what's happening in Kenya right now is just a manifestation of a youth, a population, a country, a republic, a collective of people realizing that they deserve better. People acting on that realization and loving themselves enough to demand for leaders who love them. People who are willing to step in front in courage and say, this isn't right and you're not going to do it to me anymore. And the thing, I have been looking at Mercy this whole time and her t-shirt saying, Kenya ni home. Kenya belongs to Kenyans, and it must work for all Kenyans, regardless of who you are, where you're from, your gender, your race, your religion, whatever. As long as you're a Kenyan, you were born here, your parents were born here, please, this country belongs to you. There's no one who's going to come and tell you that you have no right to do X, Y, Z. And that ultimate love and courage is enshrined in Article 1. We the people
shall. Not me. Maurice, okay. Then there's a comment right next to Nepurko. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Audrey, and first of all, I'd like to extend my deepest condolences, my sincere condolences to each and every person who lost their lives and everyone who was actually abducted or went through the worst during this protest. It didn't have to happen because of signing a piece of paper. And for that alone, it means there should be no dialogue because we shouldn't have been here right now if these people lost their lives. So that window closed the moment Rex died, the moment the first person was abducted. The maiming, the killing, the abductions, all of those closed that window. And anyone who wants to go to speak for us, we are leaderless. So it's up to them and the president. We honestly don't care. That is not part of us. Personally, I've been on the ground for the protest since the first one. So I've seen the kind of brutality that has been there. For me to be there tomorrow and any other day that the protest will be there is now to call for accountability from the government and each and every person. We know these people, they're outside, they're walking freely. So it doesn't make any sense. If we are supposed to sit down and talk about everything that's going on, then let's start by jailing each and every person who is responsible for all of this. Sorry. And then the second thing that I'd like to talk about is personally I say that we have 3 important tools in the whole movement. We have our voice, we have the Constitution, and the last one that probably people don't know is our identification cards, because our IDs are the last nail to the coffin. That is where we are supposed to use it in 2027 to vote. And that makes me urge each and every person out there, the youth, to go and apply for the identification cards. And that leads me to say, if we're saying Ruto must go, then he must go with each and every person who is in the office. Because in the case of the identification cards, we have Julius Bitok as the PS of the state of immigration.
Immigration, yes.
And yeah, he's the one who is in charge of identification cards, passports, and all of this. Tell me why someone who applied for an ID last year, November, does not have his ID right now. Does not make sense. Tell me why I'm supposed to pay for 1,000 bob to renew my ID, and I used to pay for 100. That's like, how it's insane, because I don't even remember if we had a public participation to sit down and say, okay, now we're going to increase from 100 to 1,000. Unajua hata mayai ikipanda ilikuwa 10 bob, 12 bob, 13, 15, sasa ni 17. Siku ingine ni 20. So 100 to 1,000 it's theft, daylight theft. We can see it. And it's malicious because we need these IDs to vote. So do you want to suppress you want to suppress our votes, or what do you want to do? Because there's no excuse as to why someone who applied for an ID in November doesn't have an ID right now. How are these people supposed to get jobs? You cannot hire someone to work without an ID, you see? So there are things that we're supposed to check and understand why exactly are happening, because we need these IDs to vote. If you don't have it, you can't vote. So this is voter suppression, you see? So people like Julius Bitok should actually resign by yesterday, not tomorrow.
Thank you.
Because why don't we have these IDs?
Yeah.
So at home, tell the young people, anyone who does not have an ID, go and take your ID. This is the last nail to the coffin. Not to watu wote waende home.
Okay, thank you very much. Behind the two comments.
Yeah, I'm told also, as we also give an opportunity for Boniface, who's been online since, if he's there, he could join us. Once we see his signal that is up, we'll just hand it over to him. But sir, you could go ahead with, just say your name and your comment.
Thank you. My name is Stephen Guare. And I personally don't have a question. I don't have a comment, I have a question rather. And my question is the position of the judiciary, because like the case of Mercy, was it just that Mandago currently is still out there, as with all the evidences that are out there? Now it takes us back to the constitution on leadership and integrity. The aspect of integrity, we are lacking integrity in that particular leader, and he's still holding a spot in the government, or rather in power. That's one. Another thing is on independence. Like, 1963, 12th of December, Jamhuri Day, we celebrate it as independence. And are we truly independent as a nation? Looking at the cases of, people are talking to power that let Ukraine be, let us as Kenya stay aside from that. We're talking of Haiti. Even the Haitians themselves are not for us going there. Oh, why are we going there? Just because someone went to White House or something? We have a lot of questions to ask, but there are those bits of our independence, the judiciary. Is it just that things have worked out the way they are? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You had something to say?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir. Ndio Boni anarudi lakini endelea.
Mine is to turn you to, I'm usually very particular to details. Mine is to turn your attention to a self-confessed interview where the president, when he was campaigning after his fallout with Uhuru, I think it was some Gituku, and he said that immediately Kibaki won in 2002, they got an intel at State House. They were at State House, and they were saying, he said that they were told they should not attend the swearing, right? That was not important. What is important is he said someone was carrying a placard saying, William Ruto wanted, dead or alive. In 2002, he had not run for president, but someone was ahead of time. Look for that interview. You guys look for that interview.
Nimeangusha mic, my God. Thank you.
Boni anacheka. Boni umesikia hiyo. Someone was ahead of time in 2002. Now, if we could just pump up his mic, because he can hear us. I can't quite hear him from his end. Just as a way of closing, and I don't know if this holds it for you too, John, tomorrow and moving forward, your irreducible minimum to, just to check his mic as well. Hebu sema tu kitu moja mbili.
Me?
Yeah, so he's clear. Just so that we can allow him, Bwana Omtata, so that he can log off. He wanted to log off. He'll allow us. Unless you want to address something.
I need him to address it.
Okay. Omtata, kuna swali hapa.
Naongea sana.
I just want Mwangi.
Hold your mic up, please.
Mwangi to make a comment. we are not the first country to do this. We had the Arab Spring. And we know that when you see when the old order regrouped, both locally and globally, what became of the Arab Spring? How are we guarding against the Arab Spring? Then number two, our liberties have really been lost through innocuous moves that the ruling elite have undertaken. You and me know that something called pending bills is a new invention, because under the law, you are not supposed to incur expenditure when you don't have the money. So you should not be having pending bills. Now, from the push from the private sector and the push from especially SPAC, Kenya is shifting from cash-based accounting to what they call accrual-based accounting, whereby they're not going to cover up for this by carrying them into the next budgets. Because under the current system, you do an appropriation act, you have got the money, you appropriate it, you close the year. Next year is a new ball game. Now they're trying to shift that, and to me I'm seeing a very big danger of very, very, very organized theft now coming in with the validation of the Auditor General and others that we are going to be scammed again. So we also need to be awake to that, and I don't know what we can do about it in terms of being informed. Sometimes I think these foxes are more informed than we are. We do catch up at times.
Bonnie, would you like to respond to that as you make your final comments? Guarding against the fallout from the Arab Spring as it happened, what can we do differently? Yeah.
So we need to learn from them that we don't get the revolution being stolen by the politicians. So the young people in the streets need to prepare to join political parties or form a political party. They need to get IDs. And then they need to start telling the president they should issue IDs for free. At the moment, you have to pay 1,000 bob for an ID. It has an expiry date, which is, I think, it's very money-making scheme by the government. You shouldn't have an expiry date on the ID. So as we start talking about irreducible minimums, the first thing is actually let us get IDs. And number two, we need more funding on IBC so that people are able to continuously register. I want to be able to see at least 1,000 young kids going to the local IBC office every day to register to become voters. The second thing, I think it's a prayer to the president. I know yeye ni roho ngumu sana, asikiangi. But tumwambia yangu tu yani, stop killing kids. You can't bring people back to life when you do that. Tomorrow there's a peaceful protest in Nairobi and across the country. Our members of parliament have personal bodyguards. That's about 400 bodyguards. Some of them have bodyguards in their homes. Withdraw those people, take them to the streets to protect life and property. So we expect that tomorrow, whenever there be a protest in this country, no one is going to die, and the government protect everyone. And I think finally, what Kenyans are asking actually is an empathetic, loving government, and which actually has mercy. I lost my mother to cancer, my grandmother to cancer. Ruto was going to tax cancer medication. That means he's heartless when it comes to people who are poor and are sick. And when he was doing that, he was taking that money to give it to his wife and regard his wife. And so he needs to rethink ajiti mkutano. Ajiulize, why don't see Kenya in the next years? Because he's a one-term president. Even if he survives this week and this year, Ruto will never be president again in this country. So right now, he should actually work towards legacy. Some of the members of his cabinet that he sent home stole money from us. We know, from the expensive lifestyle to the mansions they're building to the place they've bought, to recover that money. I know Ruto was called a thief when he was running. We still call him a thief and we call him a land grabber. But he can be the first land grabber who gets a Zacchaeus moment where he says, I return 12 times what I've stolen. He can decide, you know what, moving forward, I'm going to become a clean president, because his entire life, since he joined politics in 1992, he has been dodged by controversy and scandals, and all manner of evils have been associated with him. Tokarap Mashamba, Sugoi Butcher, all these names. And he can decide to become clean by not bribing people. I think he doesn't understand how much people hate him. I think he goes to church and gives those people money, but behind the back, they really, really hate him because he does not connect with people on a human level. Does he have the language? Yes. But he does not see humans. He sees pawns in his political game. The problem is he's at the highest level of his career. And if he's not careful, the people who are complaining are going to harm himself. I've told this to the president and people around parliament and parliamentarians. You're forgetting that the people who protect him are Gen Zs. You forget that the police in Mabati Shani are Gen Z. So if you continue killing young kids, the people who protect him are the ones who are going to kill him. And I'm not saying this as like I have inside information. I'm just saying if you keep killing kids, people who are parents are going to kill you because you can't keep killing kids. You have to stop killing kids because this is a very peaceful protest, but it can turn like this to become violent because the people who protect you have guns. They'll deal with you though you're dealing with other people's kids. So be very careful, Mr. President. Stop killing kids. Give us IBC, give us IDs, we send you home. No one is looking for power through the back door, actually. If you resign, you have new elections. If you don't resign and you don't kick you out, 2027, you're going home. Whether you'll be alive or not, you're going home, Mr. President. You should know that. Yeah. Now, Pendui, Asidanganya, by the way, Pendui, actually, members of parliament, you have powers to impeach this guy. Impeach him to Ndolezi Shida. Tafadhali. Like now, I'm not even in my house, I'm not with my kids. I have to hide. My shagani here.
Thank you, Bonnie. Very, very, I think a grim prediction, but one that's not without precedent if you look around what's happening in different parts of Africa. I mean, who killed Laurent Kabila, you know, who tortured Sam Doe in Liberia. It was all those people who are around him, you know. So there really is precedent. Duke, I want to bring you in for your final comments. You've heard and listened to a lot. What are your things that you'd like to say before we close?
First of all, Bonnie, I hope you're, if you're gone, good. If you're still there, I hope you're using a VPN.
Okay.
It's good to see you, man.
Santi.
Yeah, I'm sorry for what you're going through as a, you know, you mentioned your kids as a father as well. I empathize with you, man. Just keep your head up and keep going, Itaisha. So, having said all that, let me be a bit of a devil's advocate a bit. Let me just take a bit of a leaf from you. We want change. The government say they want to dialogue with us, no problem. But like on our own admission, we are leaderless, we are tribeless, we are partyless, but we are fearless. How this presents a very unique problem for the president, because if he wants to advance the agendas that people like us are putting in forums like this, how does he do it? Who does he talk to? We can talk, all of us here and all that, two-thirds gender rule. We can talk about, you know, he talks about the new face of the cabinet showing the real face of Kenya. But let's call a spade a spade. If we need to put ourselves forward and show what we want to do, we must first, and when I say we, I know I'm not a Gen Z, I'm a millennial, but you know, Gen Z is mental. We must first get what we call the accessories in order to do we have to get the scalpels first so that we can do the surgery. Right now we have no scalpels, we have no doctors, we have nothing. We have a patient who needs to be fixed or who needs to be operated on, but we have no one. So even if the government, look, I'm not advocating for them in any way or form, but I'm just trying to think, if they were to come and say, okay, we've heard you, we're saying we want to do this with you, who can we talk to? What can we do? Because if they go and do something, say for example, now that he hasn't signed the bill, and now he wants to, you know, bring national talks, and the thing is, when we say we are leaderless, I beg to differ, because I'm sorry, Bonnie, your name is out there already. That's the reason why you're not at home. I'm sorry, but that's the reason why. Shadi as well. So the reason why these names keep propping up, and you know, when you come to a forum like this, Bonnie, and you say the things that you say, I understand why now you're not at home, because when you say this guy is gonna be a one-term president, you're painting a target on your back, bro. But this is what I need to say. Hell out of you for doing that. Because if you don't do that, if we don't follow precedents like that, if we don't have a leader or leaders, then all we become is just, for lack of a better word, a movement. We have a cause, but it's a subjective. What I mean.
Yeah, no. I mean, you're making a point, and I'm seeing vigorous shaking of the head next to you.
No, I'm going to respond to what she says because I'm sure there's some fire coming this way. In 2 seconds. But I just needed to make my point very clear.
Yeah.
I came here so that I can look at both sides of the fence. The president, look, the president, His Excellency, is our president. He's not a good president, but like it or not, he's Kenyan. We are all Kenyan. He's messed up. Let's just call it messed up.
Okay. Uteleza. Okay, no, okay, guys. Wacha amalize. Ngoja. Wacha amalize.
Ameteleza. Huyu ameteleza.
Okay.
Tumsikize. Finish your point.
Aya, maliza Dio.
Finish your point.
Maliza.
Let's finish your point.
All of us here and shout from the tops of our voices, Ruto must go. Yep. And we wake up tomorrow morning and he is still president. Our lives are not going to stop. But we have what we call brain, in the sense that if he doesn't go, my dear friend here can come to a forum like this with me, and we can have a conversation, and I'm sure wherever he is, he's listening. So, Mr. President, I am a glass half full type of guy. If you're not going to resign, yeah, of course, knowing him how he is, I mean, come on, he's not going to. If you're not going to resign, you have to listen to the people. Rohongu haitakusaidia. You have to listen to the people. You have to take what we are saying in stride. Stop abductions. I mean, look, we are not. I've had the displeasure of reading Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf. It's a distasteful book. But if you look at what's going on right now, Mark has just talked about David Nee. He reminds me of Joseph Goebbels. So in this situation, as I finish, done some silly things, very stupid, silly things. I mean, even him himself, he knows. What? Yes.
Like Duke, you should see the faces reacting to what.
Can I just jump in?
That's the beauty of having such fora, because
but that's not the point of this public forum, though.
Hold on.
No, but that's not the point
it's
of
not
this
the point. It's not the point.
forum.
It's not the point.
Duke, let's finish your point and then.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's finish it.
Listen. The point of the forum. You see, I am not here to vilify. If I didn't come here just to complain or this, that. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. No. So I'm here to put across my opinion. You're welcome to have your own opinion, right? True. So my opinion is simple, John and Mark. As I close, you asked a question, or rather it was Mark who asked. Is it over for the president? Can he sort himself out? Can he do this? Can he do that? Or is it just simply Ruto must go? I think the simple answer to that question is simple, like this. He just has to listen to the people. It is as simple as that. Because you're not going anywhere. That's just my point.
All right.
Can I say a few things? I really was gonna end in a prayer because I need to pray for everybody who's going to the protest tomorrow. I still will, and I just want. Now I have to go to church. Anyway. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. This is an old, lazy, unimaginative narrative that was peddled even when we were doing Take Back Kenya, if you remember, when we were doing, we were championing for police rights, and we were tear gassed for fighting for the police of Kenya, to have decent housing, health care, to be seen as a professional unit of organizing and doing whatever they do. We were tear gassed, right? I was fucking shot at Uhuru Park. I don't talk about these things because because who the fuck cares, right? So you can't have that narrative now in a moment of crisis, in a moment where every voice in this country is saying we are the goddamn solution. It's not right. The other thing about this leaderless, we don't have this, we don't have that. Being leaderless is not the same as being disorganized. This is the most organized ever movement we've seen in this country in history. Please, let's give the children the due respect they deserve. Please, let's give the people who support them the respect they deserve. And I really hated to come here and preach because I've changed my ways and now I don't even drink gin. This is a problem. Anyway, I need to say the last thing, which is when he said that this leader, this movement has no leaders, but Boni's name is out there, Shadi's name is out there, Hanifa's name is out there. I'm going to throw that to everybody else who's saying the same thing you're saying, which is stop outsourcing your courage to the people who have chosen to be as bold as the Constitution allows them to be, so that you can be the next Boniface Mwangi. The reason why it's easy to single out Boniface Mwangi and Shadrach and Schaefer and Mark and whomever is being singled is because we decide to come to the front line and stay in the front line and be the fucking front line. Do you see? So please, can we stop outsourcing your courage? Stop imagining that there are Kenyans who are built of spades. We are all people. You know, at the end of the day, nobody even wants to be in the streets. We all want to be home with our kids, holding somebody, confusing them, but we are here fighting. No.
Sorry.
So we can't distract the movement. We really can't.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with anything you've said at all.
Before you,
it's just that it's just that I have a different opinion based on what you said. And look, an opinion is just that. I mean, look, when we have, come on, look.
Wait. Okay.
No. Let's just say it.
When you say, okay.
And he was arguing that the numbers are false. But people have died.
No, but.
So you can have a different opinion, but please honor the work that's going on.
Oh my God. I have not disagreed with anything.
Okay.
Look, what I'm saying is, if I may.
You said opinions are opinions, everyone has them.
Yep. And if I may respond to what she said.
Real quick, really, because you need to
give us your opinion.
Okay.
Really quick.
Exactly.
Yeah. Make your point.
Exactly.
Make your point.
Yeah, so
very well, sir.
So I agree. I have not disagreed with anything you've said, madam. I agree with you wholeheartedly. All I'm saying is I have a different view in the sense that for me, it is not all lost.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Kenya. For me, lives have been lost and people have died for this cause. That is inexcusable. That's true. But for me, I believe this. We can rise from the ashes like a phoenix. If the president stops Rohongumu, Aache, all this bravado, all blah, 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 and listens to the people, that is all I'm saying. He can save. There's someone who's just said here that Atakama, the president ni mwizi. He can be the first thief who brings us from the
who pulls us from the fire.
From the fire. So it's okay. I mean, look, madam, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. All I'm saying is I have a different view from it.
Okay.
Having a different view from it isn't saying that you're wrong. Okay. Cheers.
Okay.
Just allow me.
When we say we the people, we just think that because you are born in Kenya, you are whatever, you are part of the people, you are not. We the people are those who, under Article 255 of the Constitution, can go to a referendum and change that Constitution. Yeah. Or through the elected representatives can change that Constitution. We the people are the registered voters. We the people are not just where you are born. We the people are those people who have taken their time to be registered voters. So when you say we the people, look at Article 255, and you're told you can do whatever you want and throw this constitution away, provided you are a registered voter who can participate in a referendum. So what that young girl said about registering for voters, doing whatever, the majoritarian institutions must be filled by people who think like you. The only way decisions are made in this country is through politics. And so let us organize, let us take over these majoritarian institutions, then mold Kenya in the image of the Constitution, the image of the National Assembly. But if we think that we the people is everybody and anybody, then we are missing it. And that's why I think that listening to him also should sober us up to the question of who is we the people and what are we doing to be the people who can determine the destiny of this country through the Constitution of Kenya. And the movement is not an end in itself. It's a journey to a destination. Let us forget it. Let us not think that the victory was won when you stormed parliament. It was not. You are journeying to a destination. And what is the destination? The destination is good governance. And how do you arrive there? Majoritarian institutions must be taken over so that decisions, policies, and whatever are made in such a way that they endanger good governance. Thank you.
Asante sana. Now, Mercy to have your opinion and say.
Duke, you had started really well. No, really, we have to give flowers where they are due. Yes? When you said he called us treasonous criminals, and then kiasi imebaki tu kidogo usalimiwe, and not by anyone from this side, but from the lady seated behind you. And yes, we are tolerating different opinions, but we cannot excuse the failures of this man. And when you say ameteleza, it takes away from everything that you started with. We cannot call this asleep. People have died. People have died, guys. People have died. Children have 12-year-olds. Where is it right that we can start saying a 12-year-old alikufa, and then we start debate? It is that debate of how many bullets, how old was the kid that got us here, and then now we start saying this man ameteleza. This is again the same man who, when we went for the 25th protests, he unleashed his most lethal weapon against us. After calling us treasonous criminals, he went ahead and unconstitutionally called on the KDF to come and patrol the streets. How can this man save himself? First of all, it is okay that you have said he can change and he can lead us better, but let us consider that this man did not get here by leading us better, by being better. He got here through lies, he got here through intimidation, he got here through basically manipulating the system. And anyone who was competent enough in that system has been removed. And honest people have been removed from the system because they know honest people will, they will tell you the truth, and they will tell everyone the truth. And so they remove the honest people and put incompetent people so that he can lord over them, he can patron over them. Now, even if he wanted to, he does not have competent people in office. When we look at the CEOs of parastatals, these men, they are not, most of them are men. We have a few women, but they do not portray the face of Kenya. They do not portray the face of Kenya. So I think it is important that we consider that as much as we want to give him leeway, we cannot disagree with the lives. We cannot revive the 12-year-old kids. We cannot revive the 9-month-old kid. We cannot do that.
All right. I think on that note of, I guess, slight disagreement, but the kind of debate that you want to have, where, as Okiya Omtata said, where every opinion can be heard, shall be heard, even though there's robust disagreement. I think this would be a great place to kind of wind things up, right? And I say this because the conflict in the conversation that you had, Shefa, just now with Duke, with Okiya chiming in, and with Mercy as well, is better than the conflict between a person who is saying something and a person holding a gun. The conflict is better than a person who is seeking freedom but has their money stolen from them. This debate, spirited as it has wound up being, I think is the sort of thing that you want from a democracy, from a country that is in the midst of struggle towards a specific destination. Look, guys, it was supposed to be 2 hours of conversation. And I've seen people checking their watches, but still listening intently. And I'm grateful for this time that we've been able to spend together, to the people who've been online listening to us, and to the people who've commented one way or another about the position that we're in. Obviously, thank you to some of the people who we asked to speak: Shefa, Duke, Darius, Senator Omtata in absentia, as well as Mercy and Bonnie, who joined us online. Unfortunately, Hanifa wasn't able to join us because the process apparently is still ongoing. We thank you for participating with us. Mark, thanks for inviting me to your forum so that we can do this thing. I hope we can do it again.
Oh, we definitely will. Actually, thank you for bringing up the conversation. It was just last week, and we said, let's do it. Someone said, and I'd like to thank the thousands others who've joined online.
Yeah.
And with their comments, and we agreeing, disagreeing, that's what this conversation is about. Someone asking or saying, you should have the president here so he can answer all the questions. In fact, the door is open. The invitation is
open invitation to President William Ruto.
Exactly.
You can come sit in this chair, ask the questions, answer the questions, hear the anger, listen to the profanity.
Yeah.
Maybe he has some profane things to say himself. You never know, right? But nonetheless, let's get this thing moving towards the destination that all Kenyans desire for us, which is a better place, a place where there's fairness, there's equity, there's opportunity for everybody, not just some people. I think that's where I'd wind up.
And even to appreciate Professor Kivuta Kibwana, who's also one of the seniors in the struggle for the country, a leader in the Fungamano initiative, taking a picture right now in a selfie, a picture with the Senator Okiya Omtata. We really appreciate the audience here, physical audience that has been here have been patient, given comments and questions as well. The technical team around this production making it possible. Aluta Continua was made possible because of you, all of you here, and you. And we appreciate this has been a collaboration between Semabox, the social newsroom, and Africa Uncensored with John Allen Namu and the team that is backing him up as well. And we also like to thank Baraza Media Lab for hosting us in this space. This is definitely not the last, John. Asanteni sana. You all have a good night. My name is Mark Masai. It's been a pleasure. Asanteni.
Asante sana.